Okay, thanks, folks. Thank you for coming to today's Atticus webinar. My name is Mike Wells. I'm the organizer and host today. We have a great follow-up topic to our series on parenting, partnering, and practicing. And I'm really excited about this issue because I think a lot of practice owners struggle with it of all types. And we have some great presenters as well again. We have Cary Moss from Sawyer and Sawyer in Tampa, Florida. Is that correct there, Cary?
No, actually, I'm in Orlando, but
Orlando,
not far
that's
from
right. I'm so
Tampa.
sorry.
No, I'm just there, Disney World.
And we also have Michele Fuller. And Michele, you are no longer just Detroit. You are also in California now as well. You've gone to the
That's
coast. That's true. Cary and Michele are both longtime clients of Atticus, as well as adjunct practice advisors, helping other attorneys with the lessons they've learned and strategies they've put in place in their practices to help other attorneys grow thriving businesses as well as having balanced lives. So I'm going to turn this over to you guys because you guys are the experts on this topic today, which is the battle between domestic chores and parenting and the power of the 15-minute sprint. So Cary, why don't you tell us why this issue is important to you?
So if you happened to be on the call last time, this is a picture of, or you haven't been, this is a picture of my family. So I've got two boys that are going to be 18 and 16. So still in high school, finishing up. I've got a senior this year. And for me, it's really critical that I could say to myself that I didn't have any regrets, that I didn't miss time with my family, the boys growing up, their field trips and their sports and all of that. It was just really important for me not only to be physically present, to be mentally present and not be distracted and really fully participate in their lives. So this is what it's all about, is making sure that I've protected that time with them and I've given them the best type of parenting I can give based on what I know. So that's what it's about for me.
So this is my blended family. I have the blending is my husband. All four of the kids are mine, and so this is my daughter who graduated a couple years ago, and she has autism. So on top of managing four kids, being a single parent for a period of time, and then blending all of that, I live in two locations, and my daughter has autism. So, running to specialists and overseeing all of that was like it's still almost like a part-time job at times. So, everybody lives complicated lives, and, being in the Atticus program has really helped manage my practice, manage my life, and make it a great one, not just for me, but most importantly for the family. And, I couldn't say it any better than Cary said. It's really being present, both for your team at work and then being present for your spouse and your kids. And so we're here to really give you some essence about the top strategies that we have for helping with all of that, to be fully present for yourself and for your family.
So, this kind of sums it up. Here's the struggle. I mean, we all want to have this, thriving practice. We have a practice for a purpose, right? We want to be successful and we want to have a nice life and we want to have, time with our family and to do nice things and help people. I mean, there's just this, struggle that we all have as business owners. And so, with a thriving practice comes big responsibilities. And, then we have the desire to be a good parent and the desire to be a good partner if you're in a relationship with somebody. And so really the key is being able to prioritize that, right? So, being intentional about what is important and how all the pieces of the puzzle fit together. And so what we don't want to do is we don't want this practice that we all have. It's to control our everyday lives, to control the other two parts that are so important, whether it's your partner or it's your, the kids that you're parenting or even your parents that you're parenting. So we've got to figure out strategies to make that happen, to make this practice work for us and to give us the lifestyle we want. And that's what I think sets Atticus apart, is it's not just having this booming great business in this practice, it's about having something bigger than that. It's about having a great life, and it's about how you balance that. So Mike, why don't you advance to the next screen for me, please? So here's the 3 balls that, we're constantly juggling, right, in the air. And we've got that parenting component. And so if you have kids, you have that responsibility. As I just mentioned, you may be parenting your parents, as I am doing. All 4 of my parents, who I mentioned on the last call, decided to have heart issues all at the same time, maybe competing for attention. I'm not sure, but, we're in that kind of sandwich generation. And then, we're partnering, and then that might be, where you have a partner in a committed relationship under one roof, but it could also be like Michele, for a period of time that you were in a co-parenting relationship, obviously not under, the same roof, but you still have those responsibilities and trying to work together. And then we have, the practicing, where we have certain expectations that we're trying to manage, and all of that responsibility. And so the key with this is what you see kind of in the middle there is bringing it kind of all together and balancing it, where you're cultivating harmony, and cultivating where I think I mentioned this last time, you're tending to that garden, you're managing those crops, and you're always looking for ways to improve that, right? So what insect has gotten to the garden? How can I manage that? I mean, it's never one and done and everything is perfect. You've got to be figuring out ways to continue to improve that. And then the harmony is the balanced state, right? So we want to try to bring balance to all of this. And I think from the standpoint of keeping in mind that this is learning a skill, that this doesn't typically, just come naturally. I mean, you're just trying to do the best that you can and juggling all of this. And kind of what we mentioned that in that first webinar of the series, kind of what we're looking for is strategies, things that you can try out to help build the skills to create this and cultivate this harmony. And I think the highlight in my mind a lot of times, and I forget about it sometimes, I kind of, again, have to kind of go back and remind myself, is that if you remember, if you were on that webinar, if you weren't, maybe take a look at it, but there's that illustration about the oxygen mask on the airplane, right? So where you have to, they instruct you to put the mask on first before you can help anybody else. And it is a reminder that we have to take care of ourselves. It's important to do that before we can take care of anybody else, whether it's clients, your team members, your family, your partner, whatever it is. And that's really important. And in order to do that, the strategy that we really touched on, that's kind of this overwhelming, encompasses everything, is your time management. And, we talked about that as far as how important that is in order to cultivate this harmony. And so we're going to kind of delve into a couple other strategies that you can use, again, in this goal of trying to cultivate harmony. So, Mike, why don't you advance to the next screen, and I'm kind of turn it over to Michele.
Thanks, Cary. I think that, the oxygen mask theory is, or the way that you practice, the way that you run your life, is really important. You're right. And I've seen this when in my elder law and special needs practice, where people who are the primary caregivers have let their own care go in favor of meeting everyone else's needs. And look, your firm can be a parasite, right? And sometimes it's a distraction from other things, where you need more time with your children, or you need more time with your partner. And so kind of doing a little assessment about, okay, this isn't working for me. I'm stressed out all the time. I'm losing my hair. I can't get to get a haircut. I haven't shopped for myself in ages, COVID aside. So I'm going to introduce my top strategy, which I got from my coach at Atticus, and which I've incorporated about 4 years ago, and it has completely changed my life. And so I wanted to share that with you. So the top strategy is really thinking about hiring a domestic assistant. I call her my domestic goddess. Her name is Heather, and we think everyone should have a Heather. Why? Because she makes my life work. Not just my life, but the whole family's life work much, much better. And so you saw from the picture, I'm remarried, and so I live half my life in Michigan with my children, and the other half of my life is as an empty nester, basically, in San Francisco. And so it's completely cool, but a little jarring at the same time. And I have the domestic assistant where all the kids and the dogs and everybody are. And then in San Francisco, we don't have her, and we really feel the lack of assistance. And what this looks like when you think about hiring a domestic assistant is that, you know, what do you typically do in a week, right? You're worried about work, you're worried about, you know, making payroll, you're worried about your clients. These are the things that keep you up at night. But then there's a lot of other things that constantly are bombarding you, like getting the laundry done, cooking, meal prep, going grocery shopping, having to shop for, you know, school supplies that just came up, or your child tells you at 10 o'clock the night before, oh, I have to bring cupcakes tomorrow morning, right? Or I need a poster board, all these types of things, you know, that we go through. And so this domestic assistant is there to help take the errand running and all of that other stuff that interferes with you taking care of you taking care of and being present for your spouse, your partner, your children, that's what they're there for. And so you see this person who's sitting in a chair and she's just overwhelmed. And is that you? You know, and when I talk to my colleagues, it's not just the pressure at work. You know, we all have this busyitis thing, right? But that's not the prize. And I see how stressed my colleagues are about, you know, especially back in the day when you're running 4 kids in 4 different directions, having to prep meals, feed everybody, you know, if you're going through the drive-through every night, on your way to, you know, scoot them over to baseball, that kind of thing. You know, wouldn't it be nice to come home and be able to sit down as a family, even if it's for quick 15 minutes before you're going to whatever your next event is, and have a meal ready to go? That's stuff that once you get used to it, you're like, oh my God, how did I ever do this before? And the other thing is, you know, are your weekends then loaded with things that you couldn't get to during the week? And I don't mean work. I mean errands, dry cleaning, right? Cleaning the house, doing loads of laundry for, in my case, 6 people, or in your case, the equivalent of 6 people because of all the sports, right? So, you know, is that when you're going to spend half the day at Costco? You know, I mean, it always feels like you never have enough time. And Cary, you totally hit on it. Time management is one of the core principles of not just running your practice, but your life as well. So, Mike, let's go to the next slide. So, you know, what are the number one questions that when I talk about having my domestic goddess or my domestic assistant? One, you know, people think it might sound a little bougie, but, you know, to use my college age kids word, but it's really just no different than you having that essential person answer the phones at your front desk, or that person that does your filing for you at court. It is an essential part of making sure that you are working at your optimal level, which is taking care of your practice, yourself, and you're spending your time wisely. And so, you know, what does it cost you when you don't have this help, right? So when you look at it in terms of work, right, are you at your highest and best use when you're, you know, running all the copies, folding the letters and putting them in an envelope, getting the stamp printed, putting it on the envelope? Is that your highest and best use? Running a court and doing all your own filing? No, because you realize, right? Oh, well, I can bill another hour instead of spending my time doing that. Well, after I got divorced, I didn't have a domestic assistant at that point. And I had managed very proudly to fix my own toilet. I was so excited about that. It was like, yes, I can do it. And my coach just said, really? And I was like, yeah, aren't you impressed? Like, no. It just cost you about $450 in billable time. Like, oh, yeah, sure, it did, right? So are you the most expensive chore provider in your family? The answer is yes. Absolutely. So when I did the calculations, right, this person who's been with me for about 4 years now, wonderful, wonderful person. I have to work, if I can get back at least 1 hour a week, then that pays for her whole salary, right? So that's about what it looks like is, you know, and how much time does she give back to me? Way more than 1 hour a week. And it's time well spent, because even if it's not spent working, is that an extra hour or more that I'm spending going with my son to go pick out his first guitar, right? Or going to that, you know, sitting down and not being stressed, and sitting down as a family for the 20 minutes you grab a quick dinner together at the table before you head out to the next baseball game or whatever event's going on that night, whether it's a parent event, a school event, an activity, whatever it is. And so that's time that, as Cary said, I couldn't agree more, you just can't get that back. And even if it's just that short quantity of quality time, you know, that's what a lot of us struggle with, right? We're trying to meet too many needs and not meeting even our own needs. What if it means that you can go to the gym in the morning because you don't have to worry about certain things, or you're not trying to throw in that extra load of laundry just before you leave to run out the door? And it's also an example for our kids about how to leverage and how important our time is, and teaching them strategies about how to live a great life.
Michele, I'm curious, because you really have taken this on and really utilized, you know, this type of an assistant. And I'm curious in the standpoint, because I think you and I have had this discussion before, the feeling of guilt, like I should be able to do it all. You know, and so how did you first, did you have those guilty feelings, which I'm pretty sure you did, and how did you deal with them? Kind of what got you over that?
Yeah, I think that one, I recognized that I was completely worn out. I had no energy. I was not being a great mom, because I was, you know, I was happy to be home, but it was just another job to do. Like, oh, you know, and I had too much stuff to manage, and so I didn't feel present or like I wanted to do any of this. I certainly, you know, I don't mind grocery shopping. It's just so much of a time suck that I couldn't, you know, everything was rushed. I wasn't spending time with the kids, and they all grow up. I mean, I only have one left at home anymore. And so, you know, I recognized I really needed to have that time back. And so I was just completely worn out.
Yeah.
That's really it. So that kind of helped out the guilt, frankly, because I realized like, nobody's going to take care of me. If I don't take care of me, nobody else is going to do it.
Yeah.
And if I'm too busy with everything else, I got fat, you know, and tired and worn out, and I didn't look very good. So, and I didn't feel good about myself either.
Right.
I'm trying to have this boom in practice and be a great mom and be present for my spouse, and I'm doing everyone a disservice.
Michele,
and I think, go ahead.
I'm sorry. I wanted to ask you something. I think you mentioned this before, you know, dealing with when somebody finds out that you had help, how did you, you know, what did you share it voluntarily, or if they just happened to find out, how did you share or deal with their comments or their criticisms even of you need this help? Really? You can't do this yourself?
Yes, I did get that. And surprisingly, it was the most from my mother. So, and also one of my teenage daughters. And I think part of it is that they're looking at my life. They have no idea what it's like to have to make a payroll. They don't know what it's like to run a successful business practice, and still be a mother to 4 kids and a spouse. They don't understand necessarily that type of pressure. And for me to try and convince them is like, it's just outside of their complete realm of experience. I think there's also some society pressure on expectations, that whole pressure to do it all, be it all, be able to bring home the bacon and fry it up in a pan. Well, no, that's overrated. I'm not going to do all of that, because the last person I was taking care of was me. And so how did I deal with it? You know, when my mom would say something, I just said, so when are you going to go grocery shopping for me then? So does that mean you're going to come over every other day and do our laundry?
I also think it's great to highlight certain examples for people, you know, like even for the kids. I can say, look, I'm not above cleaning the house or scrubbing the toilet. Trust me, I've done it a long, long time. But when it's a Saturday and I don't mind doing it, and I just spent 5 hours doing it, while I get to see my family in the pool out there, and I'm missing out on that time where you have those good laughs and you have, you know, the jarring and the fun and the talks and the whatever. I think when you can show illustrations like that, look, you know, I'm being taken away from things that mean the most to me to
Yeah.
the house, right? And so separate from the financial issue where, shoot, I could go bill 5 hours, it's really just to be able to illustrate for people, look, I'm missing out on this aspect of life, and you don't get that back. It's
I
done.
think one other benefit that could be explained is that you're not, when you go back to the office the next day, you're not completely exhausted from having worked your second job at home, and you've had time to refresh, go home where it's peaceful and pleasant, and even put some thought into growing your business when you don't have time to do that if you're mixed up in getting the oil change, getting the pets their annual shots, handling the latest plumbing problem that's come up instead of having somebody who handles it for you.
Right.
Exactly. I have not done any of those things in 4 years. And it has been incredibly freeing. And so I don't have those complaints. And I find that I enjoy my practice better. I find I enjoy being with the kids, and I'd rather sit down and watch a movie with them than have to worry about, processing laundry or, I mean, there still are some things, I do keep some things that I really enjoy, which are, I love to cook and some other things, but like I have a plan for this weekend and I have a whole laundry list of ingredients that need to come from 3 different stores. Mm-hmm. I'm not going to go shopping at 3 different stores to go gather what I need. She's going to do that tomorrow. And so on Saturday, when I'm ready to make my son's birthday cake, I'm going to do that. And so that's where you're leveraging your time. I'd much rather do that. And then, as you pointed out, Mike, you're not starting your day in a deficit. So how far can you go in your car if you start every day in the red zone? You're constantly looking at your, that sense of anxiety, and I'm not doing enough. And so once people see, it's that initial, a little bit shocking, but it shouldn't be. And part of it is, like you said, a little bit of guilt or admitting that, look, I can't do it all. I don't need to do it all. I can actually help employ somebody in a different capacity. That is we hear about Hollywood people, they have, personal assistants and all that. It's not bougie. She is, and she's become a member of the family. She's essential now for a well-functioning household.
We always get a lot of questions when this topic comes up. I've had a couple typed in already. And I'm going to try to briefly answer them a little bit myself. We do get the question of, how do you pay this person, whether it's out of your personal money or out of your firm? Can you pay them as a law firm employee? What are some of the things you can have them do for you? We will, go much deeper in this topic on hiring and finding and managing a domestic assistant in our upcoming workshop on December 1st, which we'll talk about more at the end of this webinar. We can only go over just, you guys have gone over quite a few details. We can only go over so much with this. But I do want to share that we're already getting questions about it because people are interested. They hadn't thought about it before. They're like, oh, wait a minute. Well, how can I make this work? And often, as the creator of this concept for Atticus says, it depends. It depends on what you want, what your needs are in your family. Not every situation is different.
Absolutely.
And it changes over time, right? I mean, it changes over time. What you may need now is different than what you needed 10 years ago or what you'll need in 5 years.
I mean, 4 years ago, I had 4 kids at home full time.
Right.
Or at least part-time at my house, part-time at their dad's house. And so things have evolved and changed quite a bit over the last 4 years. And so, Mike, let's talk a little bit about what this domestic assistant, what that position is not. Do we have time for that before?
Yeah.
Okay. So anything that involves being a parent or a spouse, really easy, right? So errand running with my child to go, say, school shopping, that's a parent activity, right? If I have somebody go run an errand to go return an item or whatever, then no, that's something that's an errand that can be run, and there's a way to manage that. But otherwise, like, even giving my child a ride, even if she's here, I will take my child where they need to be if at all possible. It's not always possible 100% of the time, but most of the time it is. Anything that's involving a chore, anything that's not involving parenting, spending time with my children or my spouse, that's where you go. She's not there to run errands with my children. She's not there to take my children to eat or grab a snack. To me, that's a mom thing, right? But, you know, Mike, as you pointed out, and Cary, every family is a little different. You set the expectations and parameters as to what you need. Now, at one point in my life, I did have a person, a nanny, who was in my home, and that was her function. Her function was not to clean and do laundry and all. Her function was to tend to my very young children while I was working. So very different. This person helps make my life better. This domestic assistant, she helps make our family better by doing all of those types of chores, including you know, bigger projects like hosing down the garage. You know, I'll go through my closets and the kids' closets with them about things that have to be triaged, you know, before you go back to school shopping or every, you know, season or so. But she'll organize the donation pile, like once we've done that project together. So we talk about like projects and family chores or family things that need to be done. Cary, why don't you talk about the 15-minute sprint?
Sure. Mike, you want to advance the next slide? So here's kind of another strategy that can be utilized as well. And, you know, I think we can all relate that there's always these kind of things that you walk into your house that, you know, just seem to be like, I can't do one more thing, right? And, you know, this kind of 15-minute sprint is an extension of Atticus's, you know, kind of daily things that they do or teach us as far as, you know, there are things that you can strategize very quickly. You don't have to spend a whole lot of time on, but you can make a lot of progress in a really short period of time. And so to extend that to this 15-minute sprint and tackling something that just is kind of seems to be overwhelming is really useful. So Mike, if you'll switch it to the next slide for me. So this is where you can get your family involved, right? I got two big, strong boys. I need to make them be part of, you know, our family and do things. And when I need help, to enlist their help. And so when you have this, you know, you can make this a weekly activity, and it's, of course, making everybody kind of pitch in to help, even when it's not their mess. And I've had that just recently where I have two boys at two different schools and they'll have different teammates over. And, you know, the mess will need to be cleaned up, and we all participate in that. We've had a lot of fun. Now let's get it together and pick it up. And my younger one will say, well, that was the older one's teammates, not mine. I said, that's great, but we're all going to do this because there's going to be times that your team is over. And so we're all going to pitch in, and it makes things go much faster. We're going to help each other. We're family. And so afterward, you know, that, you know, you do give them some kind of reward potentially. I mean, I have teenage boys, so gas money is always a good thing, but we tackle things as a family in the sense that, you know, we may see like in the garage, there's this, you know, pile of stuff that's accumulated over time, as a garage typically does. And so we'll say, look, here's our plan. We're going to spend, you know, 15 minutes on Saturday morning just plowing through that. And it's amazing how much stuff you'll get done in a very, very short period of time if we're all pitching in. And so we kind of strategize like that. We'll also see like that laundry room dump zone, right? Periodically that needs to be addressed. So there are places in your life where you feel like there's this, you know, task that needs to be completed, but it seems overwhelming, and it will be if it's just you doing it. So let's have the family take some ownership and make that happen. And again, it doesn't have to be a long time. It can just be chunks. And whether it's a yard project or the garage or the family drop zone in the kitchen that ends up being a mess, take care of it together. And so what you'll see, Mike, if you advance to the next screen, is it does give everyone a sense of accomplishment, right? It's responsibility, and it doesn't have to feel like a chore. I mean, I even laugh to this day when we had this just junk in the garage that we all said, okay, we got to deal with this. It's a time where we kind of, you know, making fun of each other, or this happened, or we find something that we laugh about that we hadn't seen in a while. So it doesn't have to be this, you know, quote unquote chore. It's something that, again, is going to lead to this kind of family event and things that you will remember. It's a memory, you're creating a memory. And, you know, as you see on the screen, more things get done in a shorter time. And it makes your to-do list manageable. I mean, I don't want to feel every time I come home and see that in the garage, it's a frustration for me. It's like it causes me stress. So when you identify things that give you that reaction, enlist the family, get us together. Let's just say, hey, we're going to tackle this on Saturday or Sunday morning. And of course, we're always looking for ways to instill good habits in our kids, so that, you know, as they get older, they, you know, have a life that is a great life and ways to deal with things. So it's a really good, useful tool that you can use to kind of tackle, you know, those things that feel very overwhelming to you.
I think this is a good strategy to employ, you know, if you don't, especially if you don't have a domestic assistant. I think the pile in the garage or the dump zone that we all kind of have and accumulate, I think it's a great strategy, and it's just 15 minutes. So you may not get a whole big project done, but a lot of us work on big projects all the time. You have to break it down in small chunks. And I think, like you said, Cary, you know, you have this family shared sense of success and accomplishment, whether it's cleaning up like a part of the yard, and then maybe the next week you tackle a different part of it, or it's the closet that everything falls out when you open the door. You know, that'll take everybody. That's yours. Whose is this? Are we keeping it? Are we donating it? You know, you do the Marie Kondo thing and, you know, and clean things out. But when it's done and it's put together, you know, it's like, right?
Yeah. And it just needs to be short periods of time. You don't have to say, I have to devote, you know, the whole day to this, and what a drag.
Right, right. And it's great for little kids too. There's a lot of things that they can do. So it's a great thing.
Well,
What's
and
next?
I want to add to this that you know, let's say you know, you've got like an infant. Well, the infant can't really help you clean the garage, but you know, you probably do have a romantic partner, and even just two people working on something for 15 minutes together, you can get a lot more accomplished. You know, if it's like the massive amount of towels that, you know, nobody wants to fold them, they keep piling up. Let's just get it done. So what I want to do now with the audience is I actually want to ask those of you in the audience to be open to this assignment. Email us the biggest insider idea you've had out of today's session, and what you plan to do in your home or in your practice. And email also in that your shipping address, because I will send you a copy of the Domestic Assistant Advantage, a book that's available on our website for I think about 20 bucks. We'll mail the paperback copy to you. If you already have one, do it anyway, and you can share that copy with a friend. You know, Steve wrote this several years ago, and it's really one of the when he has coaching clients, you know, they're resistant to it initially until they try it, and then
Right,
they're like,
Michele?
oh wait, why didn't I do this 5 years ago? And the book breaks out a lot of the strategies in more depth, as will the workshop that is coming up on December 1st. And because you attended today's webinar, you'll be sent a coupon code when we have our registration page open on the website, where you can get into the workshop. It's a 4-hour workshop for $99 instead of $499. So it's a great deal, and we wanted to reward you for spending your time with us here today. And again, that workshop is going to be on December 1st from 12 to 4 Eastern Time. It'll be much more in depth on the topics from this webinar, the one we did last month, and the one we have coming up in October as well. So the workshop agenda, again, goes deeper dive. And we really want to help giving you more of a work-life balance, a real work-life balance, instead of just chasing the dream of someday things are going to get better and I'll have more time. So now it's time, if you have any other questions, if you'd like to chat them in to the chat box in your GoToWebinar dashboard, you can. You can also raise your hand and I can unmute you, and then you can be heard by everyone. So we did have a couple of questions earlier from Melinda about can you pay this person from your firm? Can we ethically justify it as a law firm employee? Do either one of you want to speak to that question?
Michele, do you want to take that?
Yeah, I think that basically if you want to get some real nuts and bolts how to manage this, especially the domestic assistant part of things. I mean, we're going to be talking about overall lifestyle management, right? Living a great life. But if you want more specifics on, you know, how do you manage this person? How do you pay them? What does it look like? Are they an employee of your firm? Do you know, and in my process for doing that has evolved significantly. And actually, I'm really proud of what she's done for herself and her family. And so I can share that with you as well. But I think it's really important that first you've recognized you're here for a reason, because this is a sore point, a frustration for you. And so we'd really invite you to participate in that workshop. And so Mike, I'm sorry, was there a different question?
Well, just, she had the part about, justifying paying them as a law firm employee. And I think in some instances that's possible, but especially if they also serve as, the cleaning person at your office. You can pay them possibly that way. I know you helped yours. She actually has her own LLC now, and the building that you own with other business office tenants, she actually cleans there. So you helped her form her own business when she moved from the business she was previously working from, right?
Yeah, she did. She started off as an employee in the firm as a W-2 employee, and my tax advisor didn't have any issues with that because she also did some work for the firm. Like when she went shopping also for refreshments and snacks and things and office supplies. So that was a kind of a nice way to leverage that. Although I had to guard against and set some parameters in place around how she did that and when she did that. And then eventually, as you said, Mike, she evolved into, we helped her form an LLC. So we paid, her company, which has helped her tremendously. We've also helped provide some opportunities for her for not side jobs, but for additional work for her firm, her company, cleaning out houses. I told them this before the program, but she's married to, he's basically a handyman. So between the two of them, they are a magic combination. So we've introduced them to other, probate practitioners that need help clearing out houses and getting them ready for sale. She and her husband have done a tremendous job, and they've then been able to enroll their adult children for when they need additional help. And so we've kind of helped her grow her business so that eventually, as our needs decrease with the kids and all of that over time, she was set up for success as well. And so I have to tell you, I'm incredibly proud of her and how their family has evolved.
Well, and the level of what you have a domestic assistant do is really up to you, because the next question that we had from Melinda is what are the types of things that she does for you, in addition to, helping out with waiting for the repairman to come fix the dishwasher, cooking laundry. It really depends upon what items you want to delegate. Now, like Steve Riley, who wrote the book that we're giving you, one of the things that their domestic assistant would do meal prep. Now, they cook their dinners, but she would do the pre-dinner thing, like, before, Steve got home from work or whatever, she'd chop the vegetables, get everything ready, did the pre-shopping for it. But the cooking was something that he and his wife were determined, like, no, we're going to cook this together with our family. We need the help with the prep, right? Yeah. When it comes to being able to deal with other vendors at your home, such as the repair people, I think that, sometimes like you do this, Michele, I think you said you have a credit card with that person. They have a limit that they're allowed to spend up to on paying for repairs or paying for the items you send them shopping for. And if there's something over that limit, they ask you about it or give you, information about what they need to purchase, right?
Yeah.
Now,
absolutely.
not everybody can do that,
Yeah, she can authorize her on a particular credit card.
Yeah.
And the credit card is very flexible so that I can set preset limits. And if there's something that goes over and above it, we discuss it in advance. But otherwise, and there's a trick to managing this. The communication is essential. And as you said, Mike, what this person does for your family is entirely up to you.
Yeah.
Now, she spends about 24 hours a week at our home. And then, as I mentioned, I live half the time in the San Francisco Bay Area. And so we have 2 dogs and they go home with her. And so when she's not working for us, she's a wonderful dog mom. They're her second, our dogs, that's their second family. And it's just worked out beautifully. Now, not everyone is able to do that, but she's been able to really help support a very interesting life, living on in 2 different, very different locations.
Well, again, we will go into much more detail about this topic. It always proves to be a pretty popular one in the workshop itself, on everything from finding someone, setting up checklists for them of what you need them to do, to how to manage them, and what happens when eventually you have turnover and replacing them, all of that. and deciding for yourself what's really important for you and your life that you want to delegate away. You know, maybe you really, really like ironing and you don't want to delegate that away, but you know what? There are other things you probably don't.
Or like you said, Mike, you know, cooking together.
Yeah.
Now that's a big deal, but if you know, there's services that will, you know, prep the stuff. But I have to tell you, when I make chicken soup, same thing. She preps and chops all the vegetables, and they're beautifully done, by the way. But then I make the soup. I make it exactly the way I want to make it. And so it is an incredible help, though, and it happens in about 15 minutes compared to, you know, an hour and a half. So it's just wonderful, wonderful to have that available to me.
Well, thank you, Michele, and thank you, Cary, again for today's presentation. Look forward to next month's, which is going to be about carving out time for a family vacation, and so that your practice is running itself while you're gone. Thank you, everyone who attended today. And don't forget, email freestuff@atticusadvantage.com your biggest insight or idea that you got out of today, along with your shipping address, and we'll have our headquarters mail you a copy of the paperback book.
That book is super helpful, by the way. Lots of checklists, going through a lot of things that we talked about, but I really encourage you to come to the next session, and then really attend the workshop. It's well worth it.
All right. Thanks, guys. Everybody, have a great afternoon.
Have a good one.
Thanks, Cary.